Let's see. Hold on. Could everyone see? Let's see if we could. Yeah. Hold on. Let's see this. Okay. So let's just do a quick recap of what we did so far. Baruch Hashem, very special. Learning Torah, the best. You can't get better. So we'll do a quick, hopefully for like a half hour. We'll knock this one down a little. We'll do a couple more. If anyone has anything to say, pop in. If anyone has any ideas, anything, please share. And yeah, so I'm just going to read the beginning, and then we'll take it from there. So we opened up. By the way, this part of Pirkei Avot is not a part of the original Pirkei Avot. It's the Bryce, which was added on after, which is the parak, which has to do with the ways and methods. Talks about Torah and acquiring Torah, and it's good preparation for Shavuos. So let's get started. Gedola Torah Yosem min HaKahuna min HaMalchus. Torah is greater than the Kahuna, the priesthood, and kingship, being a king. Why? Shamalchus niknes b'shlosha malos, because a king is acquired through 30 levels or 30 things that he receives. It's not that that's what makes him a king. It's once he's a king, he receives 30, he has 30 benefits that represent his dignity and who he is. The kahuna have 24. Torah niknes ba'arba'in u'shmona dvarim, and the Torah is acquired in 48 ways. And we said, by the way, the difference, meaning why is Torah greater? So the Mefarshim speak out because Torah is there for everyone, and the way to acquire it is through means of it's through morals, and anyone can do it, and it's through things which are not through working on oneself. Through doing these 48 things, you could acquire it, and as opposed to the other ones, which are just materialistic things that they get. Okay, let's continue. Be'eluhain, and these are they. B'talmud, with learning. We went into that yesterday. Shmi'as ha'ozen, through attentive listening, proactive listening. Ba'arichas vasayim, through speaking out loud, learning out loud. Bevinas halev, through the intuition of the heart or the understanding of the heart. Besichlos halev, with the intellect of the heart. Be'emo, with awe. Be'yira, with reverence. Ba'anova, with humility. Be'simcha, with happiness. So we did all those yesterday, and we will continue. Anyone have any thoughts, anything on any of those things? Maybe last night or yesterday something just came down, like zapped you in the face? No? Okay, fine. Bit tahara, that's what we're up to right now. With purity. You need to be pure. Purity is one of the ways which is needed in receiving the Torah. So what does that mean? Just an interesting story with me, actually, why I go to the mikvah, or I try to go to the mikvah every day. It's been hard in these times, but in general, is I think around 8 years ago, I was in base, 9 years, I don't know, who knows. But, and I was up in Tzfas, and I met with Rav Avshi Weingat, who is the Rosh Yeshiva of Shalom Rav. And we had a whole conversation, and he said to me, he's like, you learn Torah? I mean, like, what are you doing? I'm in base, fine, I'm learning. So he's like, you go to the mikvah? It's like, I don't go to the mikvah. I go every Shabbos, maybe. So he's like, how could you not? You need to be pure. You're not reading the newspaper over here. You need to do everything possible to purify yourself and to be in a pure place, to learn Torah. Happens to be, after that, I started going to the mikvah, and I don't know, it hit me. And so yeah, but what does that mean? Meaning Torah is pure, it's holy. And therefore you need to be a pure vessel in order to receive it. And that means that you have to be careful what you watch, what you hear, what goes in. the thoughts that you're thinking about, because you have to be a pure vessel to receive something pure and holy. And that's actually what we're doing in this time of Sfiras HaOmer. We are, as the Ribono Shalom says, it's to purify ourselves and to become more holy. We're working on our midos, and we're trying to become more holy. And that's a prerequisite in order to receive the Torah. Yes, Reb Gary.
They have a limit on how many people can come to the mikveh, or you have to wait online, or you know.
They just reopened it, and yes, there's a limit. One person in the mikveh at a time. I think it's like, yeah, there's only like 4 or 5.
Outside of it before you enter, before you go through the turnstile.
Not when I went, but yeah, it's empty. It's almost empty.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not the old hangout like usual. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, it's never full anyway, but I mean, because it hasn't been open, I thought maybe people are rushing to come to their mikveh, you know. But anyway.
Not when I went. Okay, so for Tahara, so that's one has to be pure. And that means being careful what you watch, hear, what goes in, the thoughts that one thinks. Being a pure vessel in order to receive the Torah, which is pure. Fine. Next, Mishimush Chachamim, attending the sages. And this is a very important thing. This is very, very important. The Gemara in Brachos, Daf Zayin, Amud Beis says that Shimusho Godlo Milimudo, that attending and being of service and hanging around Talmidei Chachamim is greater than learning from text. And why is that? Why is that? Because Torah is not words on paper. It's not just mere intellectual ideas. It's teachings of our real life experiential teachings. And it happens to be a big problem in our days. And Chaim Soloveitchik, who was not Reb Chaim Soloveitchik, his grandson, he's a professor or a historian. He wrote a whole thing about how nowadays people, their whole Torah learning is from books. And that's a problem because there's so many, it's turned into, and that's whatever he goes into, that's why we're overly obsessed with like chumras and stuff like that, because the way, and we're missing, like there's he talks about like the people from the shtetl, or like he remembers like the people that came from war, and like the simple yidden that like would just like break down crying in shul because like they were so connected. And now like we're all into like these chumras, and that has to do because we're not, it's a lack of hanging around and being around people who are living it. Meaning when you're around people that are living Torah, it affects you more than just reading words on a paper. Of course, this doesn't just have to do with like how people act and like Musar. It also has to do with halacha, meaning he talks about in those days where it's a big thing in Brisk that that they say that like the Chavetz Chaim, the Mishnah Brura is written for like Amaratzim, for people that don't know, or people that don't have a tradition, because it used to be you hung around your mother, you hung around your father, they know halacha, and you just do what they do. And like the Holocaust really took a big hit on Judaism, where now we're like dealing with the remnants of what is left, and there's a lack of shimusha, there's a lack of being mashamish and hanging around people that are living Torah. And there's the Gemara that says like, if you stand up for a Sefer Torah, you're foolish if you don't stand up for a Talmid Chacham, because the Talmid Chacham is someone that embodies Torah, and you could read words on paper, but you could be missing the essence of what's going on. And therefore, for sure, just to understand how to live Torah and halacha as well, meaning if someone wants to be a posek, you can learn all this from you want, but there's something that you get from being mashamish, hanging around your teacher, which you wouldn't get from the books. Obviously, in those days, it was really, really important because one's whole Yiddishkeit came from Torah Shabbat Peh and watching and being around your rabbis. But nowadays, it might even, I'm not going to say be more necessary, but it's necessary because you could get lost in the words as opposed to the experience of what Torah is supposed to be and how it's supposed to be lived. And I know for myself personally, I've learned just from being around and seeing how certain people act and people deal with certain situations. You learn a lot just from watching and just being around. Rashi brings the Gemara in Avodah Zarah, which says that even the mundane conversations of Talmidei Chacham require delving into. Meaning it's not, you learn everything. You learn how to talk, you learn how to walk, you learn how to be by being around people who are really living it and embody Torah. And that's something which you don't necessarily get from the books. You don't necessarily get from the books. It's important. Any thoughts? Keep it moving. Let's go. Gary has something.
Yeah, I'm
to
curious
say.
what you've learned from some Talmidei Chachamim, or what you small things that you think might be overlooked or something. Like you said, delve into the mundane conversation. I didn't know if you had any examples.
I meaning in a halacha, I have a lot of examples where, like, I've learned, like, it'll say something in the Mishnah Berurah, or it'll say something in a certain case, and I've spoken to like Rabbi Berkowitz, and he'll say that doesn't apply on specific cases and stuff like that, or by tshuva, depending where you're holding to know what is actually the letter of the law and what is not. And sometimes that helps. But even more than that, you see, I mean, just from being around him, Rabbi Gerzi, who I'm close with, other Rebbeim, you see the care that they have for people, the patience they have for people, how calm they are, how much of a settled mind they have, really, meaning they're not overwhelmed. Every single person gets their attention. They know how to listen. They know how to hear you. They really care. They really care. And that's something
That's why we're hanging out with you. That's why we're learning with you, because you provide that.
Thank you so much, Gary. That's something you get where you see how they act or their passion towards certain things or certain areas. Like, for example, I learned about Berkowitz for 3 years, and you see his passion and his care for Klal Yisrael as a whole, which is like, you don't just get that from learning a sefer of, that talks about you have to love Klal Yisrael. It's a different thing when you actually see someone that loves and is obsessed and cares to the point where he will do anything, or the way they'll be of service. I don't know, just some examples. Hope that was maybe helpful.
Very much so.
Okay, great. B'diktok chaverim, the next one. Closeness or being precise with friends. And this is a very important thing. The Rabbeinu Yonah says that two of the most important things in spiritual growth are, one, to make sure you have good friends, positive influences, and also to distance oneself from negative influences. Those are like, we as human beings, we're social beings, and we're very much affected by the people we hang out with. And therefore, it's very important to make sure one has good friends. One hangs around with right people, with the people that help cultivate one's growth. And to make sure, meaning we have to have friend, to acquire a friend, to have friends, that's an essential part of acquiring Torah. You need to have good friends. And that's very, very important. In addition, Rashi points out that if you have good friends and you're studying together, you could discuss things, You could discuss different teachings which you've learned, or different ideas, or different things you've heard from your teacher together, and that could bring more clarity. But the idea of having good friends is such an important thing in one's spiritual, mental, emotional growth, physical, even just to have people that are healthy, want the best for you, celebrate your accomplishments, and that are excited when you find out something, or when you learn something, or when you've done something, and that could help you celebrate and could help inspire you. And it's a very bedikto chaverim, having close friends, and to make sure one makes time for friends, one calls friends, one puts effort into, I mean, that's knei l'chol chaver, but to really put in effort in having good friends is an important, essential part of one's growth. Anyone want to say anything? Okay, moving on. Ubepilpol hatalmidim. So sharp discussion with students. So this, as opposed to dikto chaverim, is just about having good friends and to making sure that one stays away from not good friends, but to make sure one has positive friends. This is the sharp conversations that help clarify ideas. When you're able to bounce things off with friends, it helps sharpen one's mind, it gives clarity, and it helps one arrive at the truth. And obviously this should not be done in, meaning it's not personal. We're both trying to figure out what is MS, and we're both trying to come to that place. And when the discussion is with that in mind, sometimes it can turn into an ego trip. But the idea is to have sharp discussions, which one, sharpen your mind, help you learn things for the future, help you process ideas, but also it gives one clarity on that idea of discussion, and helps one arrive at the truth, or helps one get closer to clarifying and separating the things which the excess stuff. Yeah, that's another important thing.
Are these 28 things for receiving the Torah? Is it kind of like, are they all combined, or it's these are literally individual ideas for, if you just do one of them, then you're able to receive? Does that make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah, I meaning, is it just one? Like, if you just have good friends, will that do it for you?
Right, like,
Or
yeah,
do you need
these are
all of them?
28 things, but is it like, it sounds like you need a few of them, or I wouldn't say, I
You
mean,
need
I
all
love
of
all
them.
of them,
So
awesome, all of them. All of them.
That's
The idea is to get the full.
you need 48 things. These are 48 things which one needs, and one needs to develop within himself to be someone who completely embodies and lives Torah. That's the way I understand it. And that's my personal.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I don't think it's just one. I think they're all important.
Yeah.
Thanks. Amazing. Yashikach, Rabbi.
Thank you. Just trying to get some clarity.
No, that's it. That's it. This is the discussion.
Yep.
This is Pilpul
Yep.
Talmidim. We're working this out. Meyer, good to see you. Okay, B'yishuv. Anyone else? Keep it moving. B'yishuv. So B'yishuv literally means with being settled. So that could meaning to have Yishuv Adas, to have a calm, settled mind, where you're not bombarded with thoughts. A lot of these things, simcha, meaning the fine nuances between them, we have to clarify and requires more study, but we're trying to get as much as we could in here. So Yishuv Adas is having a calm, settled mind where you're not bombarded with thoughts, a calm environment as well, or others learned that B'yishuv means with a yeshiva, meaning to have a place where you learn. But also b'yishuv means a calm environment where you're settled, where you have a calm mind, where you're not bombarded with thoughts, you don't have distractions, where you could really focus. It's important. Another one is b'mikra b'mishnah, which is, b'mikra means Torah shebechsav, one has to be fluent in Tanakh, and b'mishnah, and in Mishnah, which is the foundation of Torah Sheba'al Peh. One has to be fluent in those things to really acquire Torah. I'm sure nowadays you need more than that, but that's just a foundation for that. Meaning this is a brisa, so in those times that's what they had. They had Mishnah and Tanakh. Nowadays, I'm sure more would be included in that. So those were a lot of positive things. Now we're going to take a step into the things that one has to limit or shift his focus. So b'miut tzchora, limited business activity. So Rashi says in Eruvin that in Gemara, it's Nun Hey, Amud Aleph, that the Gemara says, that's for Meir. Meir wants to know where the daf is. He told me. So Nun Hey, Amud Aleph, that someone who's fully engrossed in making money won't find Torah. Meaning, if one's whole life and his desire is all about making money, then he won't give space for Torah. First of all, he won't have time, meaning money is one of those things which takes over one's mind completely. You go to sleep thinking about it, you wake up thinking about it, you dream about it. And I think limited business activity meaning what does your life revolve around? Are you making money so that you could live a Torah life, or are you making money to make money and you happen to be living a Torah life? And if one wants to fully acquire Torah, there has to be a shift of focus. And it takes up a lot of space. It just takes up a lot of space. And it's a hard thing. It's a hard thing in order to have that balance. But yeah. Now there's a couple miyot. The miyot derech eretz. So Rashi understands this as shouldn't be chilling too much in the marketplace. You shouldn't be hanging out too much. And just think about it in general. Anyone that has goals and real things that he wants to accomplish and move forward. So there's certain things which he has to give up. There's certain things which, if that's his focus, someone that appreciates that every single action he's doing, he's making billions of dollars. So obviously there's a time to chill, and obviously there's a time to hang out, and obviously there's a time to let loose, and one needs that. But overindulgent in just hanging and chilling with the boys and doing things, it takes away from one's goal. Also, the Machzor Vitri says that this also has to do with community affairs and politics. Like don't get too involved. Don't get too involved. I mean, sometimes you have to. Like we have Mordechai Tzaddik who had to get involved, and if that's your avoda in life, of course you got to do it. There's nothing to talk about. But if you don't have to be involved in politics and what's going on, so it takes away, it takes up space. Another thing is the Lechem Shemayim says that this has to do with sciences and secular studies and all those things. And he appreciates the fact that one needs to have certain secular studies in order to understand Torah, meaning you need to know certain sciences, you need to know math, you need to know psychology. There's certain things that one needs in order to live a healthy life, but too much of it, and if that's the focus, that could also take away from one's learning. Any questions, points, critiques? Moving forward. The miut tanug. Also, meaning obviously we need pleasure and we need things that to enjoy in life, but too much an overindulgence of pleasure seekers that are constantly that's what their life's about, that can take away from one's goals in general, but specifically Torah, because that's our conversation. B'miut shena, with less sleep. The Gemara says in Brachos that I think it's Samach Beis, Amid Beis, that's for Meir. Zakai, here he is in the house. That of course we need sleep to function and to be healthy, and of course the Torah appreciates that. But too much sleep, first of all, too much sleep will make you more tired if you sleep more than is needed. But we don't have all day here. We don't have, meaning we have a certain amount of time in this world, and got to use it wisely. Chaim, weiter. Any thoughts, comments? Zakai, good to see you. Meyer. Reb Yoel Shlita and Reb Gary. Keep it moving. The miut sicha, of course, means with less limited idle chatter. And obviously you need to talk and hang out, but too much again. First of all, it could lead to negative talking in general, which is Lashon Hara and different things that come up. If obviously there's a time where people need to schmooze and let loose and relax, but too much could also take away. Also, b'miut tzchok, with less joking around. It happens to be, by the way, the Gemara says that Rabbah would open up every single class with a joke and with humor. And obviously humor is needed and it's important, especially in our generation, especially in these times. We need humor to keep us moving. Like there's a Gemara in Tainus, Chaf Beis Amud Aleph, for Meir. Meir appreciates it. That it was asked, Eliyahu Hanavi was in the marketplace, and Rav Broka asks Rav Eliyahu Hanavi, who are the people that are going to Olam Haba? And he points to these two guys, to these two brothers, and Rav Broka goes up to them and says, what do you guys do? And they said that we're batchans, we're jokesters, and we cheer people up. We cheer people who are depressed, and we give them life. And they also said that when there's arguments or where people are at each other's throats, they get in there and they make jokes and they break things up. So obviously there's a place for humor. There's no question about that. And obviously Reb Nachman spoke about mili d'shtusa, of doing wild things to snap one out of being stuck and being trapped within anxiety and being stuck. And you need to do things that break one out. But if it's not necessary and if it's not needed, then obviously it's another thing which takes away. It could take, if one's just whole thing is just watching comedies and stand-ups, so that could take away. That could take away. Or it could take away if his whole life is a joke, whatever. There are things to be taken seriously. But yeah, not too much. All these things need to be with the proper midah, with the proper amount. Obviously we need all of them, but just make sure that it's helping it's being productive and not productive. Is that clear? L'chaim tovim l'shalom. How's everyone doing?
Wow, what a Mishnah.
Oh, this is a huge Mishnah. And I didn't even put the whole Mishnah up because we're not going to get the whole thing tonight. But these 48, each one is its own thing which needs work. And we're at part 2. We started with some big ones yesterday and we're moving through, baby. We're moving through. This next one I think is very important. They're all very important and they're all necessary. This one is Ba'arach HaPayim, being slow to anger. And what the Mefarshim speak out, what that means is, first of all, having patience, not getting frustrated too easily with, first of all, in learning. If you don't understand something, patience. Don't get frustrated, relax. Put in the time needed have patience, and especially in the beginning of one's process, in the beginning of anything, any endeavor, anything that once, as the Medrash says, kol ascholos koshos, all beginnings are hard. And of course, especially learning can be hard. And one has to have patience and be slow to getting frustrated, being slow to get angry. Also, anger causes you to have a cloudy mind. As the Gemara says in Psachim, if a wise man becomes angry, he will lose all of his wisdom. There's another Gemara in the Dharm which is like that also, that when one gets angry, all rational thinking leaves. His emotions take over and he's not able to think rationally and goes out the window. And what is necessary for learning Torah is to have patience, being slow to anger. Also, when learning with a chavrusa, being able to hear the other person out. And by the way, some of the Mefarshim speak out that this has to do with a teacher to a student and a student to a teacher. Teacher has to have patience. And he can't get frustrated with his students, even if they don't understand and they ask a million times. He has to be okay with them not fully understanding. And having patience and being slow and not getting frustrated easily. But in general, anger is something which takes away one's rational thinking. And it's a very important thing. One of the very important of the 48, I think, is this one. Because anger comes from ego and chaim, but just to be slow to anger, being able to have patience and not get frustrated easily.
These are all, they're all amazing. But for me, it's all so. I didn't know this necessarily going in, but there's so many of all these things just to the Torah, so to receive the Torah, to understand, to get on a deeper level. It's just like I never would have thought. My simple mind would have just thought like amazing. The words are great, and whether they resonate with you or not on a simple level, it could just be like the Torah, I received it today because of this, but there's so much behind it on just your mitos and your and everything that you're supposed to be working on. Because these are all things that in general, I myself try to work on, not all, but these are the ideas of an attribute to make a person, a person who they are. And just you have to have all these things to mamish receive the Torah. It's I never knew so this is all new to me. The fact that you're working on yourself makes everything better. All these attributes, you're going to be able to actually understand and receive the Torah on such a higher level.
100%.
It makes sense when I talk about it, but when I was thinking about it before, I did never even thought to think like that. But the idea of it makes total sense. All these things, you have to have all these things going for you. That's just something that was coming to my mind. The fact that they're just these are all just I thought it was simple. You got these awesome Torah words. We learn it, and if it hits you, it hits you. If it doesn't, I try to feel better afterwards because I'm taking the time out. So on a simple note, it's I'm taking the time out to learn right now. That's good,
That's amazing.
Really, there are all these things that are incredible to work on yourself, and therefore you're bettering yourself to be able to understand on a higher level, and that's amazing to me. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much, Yasher Koach. Not mamish.
I love how it says that the malchus and the kahuna need to be something that need to be nikne as well, which is such a strong thing, because I think most people look at it, malchut and kahuna, as something that goes by your children. If you have your child as a kohen, if you have if you're a king, then your son will be a king. But it correlates it to the fact that it's the same, all Am Yisrael. There's Am Yisrael, right? And it's connected to the Torah, no matter what. Just as the Kohanim, you're connected to the Kahuna, but there are attributes to the Kahuna that you need to be able to buy to really become a Kohen in a certain sense. You know what I mean? The same thing with the Torah. We're connected. We're Jewish. We're Am Yisrael. We're always connected to the Torah, but that doesn't mean anything. There's certain attributes that you need to be able to acquire to be able to be a part of it. And the same with the Malchus and the Kahuna, which is super interesting because you don't really look at it that way usually.
I hear
You
it.
look at it as something that goes by genetically.
Shakach. Thank you so much, Zakai. Mamish, thanks for that input. We love your input. Everyone's input. Shakach. Anyone else? Any other beautiful ideas?
I just love how it just goes off with בקבלת האיסורים, מכיר את מקומו ושמח בחלקו.
By the way, we're not done. I didn't put the whole Mishnah. It keeps going.
That's not all. The keeps going.
It's 48. It's 48 ways, and I just gave because that's all. I don't even know if we're gonna get up to that, but that's all. Yeah, there's 48. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Everything. I love that everything has like an attribute. Like it doesn't. A lot of things could you can understand that they could be the same thing in a certain sense, but they're not. Like everything has a time and as a place to be able to be able to focus on it. You know, a lot of times we think that there's certain, like there's like one category for one thing that we're doing in our lives, and really it's really broken up to a lot of different categories and stuff, and every and we need to be able to focus on us every midah on like different times.
100%, and that's part of Sfiros Omer. That's part of this process. That's really what it is, and it's all of these things are receiving the Torah takes there's means. It doesn't just meaning we need to be a proper kli, we need to be a proper vessel, we need to work on certain things to help really embody Torah as a whole.
Some of the things that you wouldn't even think there's the connection. It's you're building yourself as, like you're saying, as a kli to be able to receive it. So it's like some of these things. Why what's the connection between me learning and being generous or anger? Like right now I'm sitting here and like, okay, I'm not going to get angry right now, but you're building yourself as the kli to be able to receive it. So that's appella to me. The fact that like it's a full on, just everything it's not that there's no shortcuts in a way, but like it's like you're creating a kli so that you're able to makabel or to niknes, whatever the word is, to get it all, because that's our ultimate goal, to understand it all, to receive it all, to get the full glory of it.
Amen. No, seriously, we should be zocher. No, and it's, by the way, it's not an all or nothing. Not meaning.
No, yeah.
Yeah, this is the more we work on it, the more we could embody, and it's a process. The
way to look at what is the less broken we are, maybe, if it's.
Yeah.
The more we have, the less
whole
the more whole.
100%.
You may have discussed this already, but are these 48 ways also related to or connected to the Aish 48 ways from Rabbi Noah Weinberg?
This is where he's coming from.
This is where he's coming from. Okay, cool.
This is where he's coming from. This is the Bryce on Pirkei Avot, or whatever. It's at the end of Pirkei Avot, which is that's where Rabbi Noah Weinberg has a famous series called the 48 Ways, which is based off of these. Believe Tov. Yeah.
Who says it? Which Tana says this?
I think it's nameless.
Mm-hmm. Maybe it's Rabbi Danasi.
We can look it up. Maybe it's continuing from a different one, but I think it's Yudanasi or I'm not sure. It's a brisa. It's a stam brisa.
It seems very connected to the time, because it seems it has a lot of it seems like it has a little bit of negativity towards the kahuna and the malchus. Maybe
Meaning we spoke out in the beginning that meaning meaning Gedola, meaning there's a Mishnah earlier which says that there's 3 crowns. There's the crown of Torah, crown of Malchus, crown of Kahuna. And this Mishnah is saying that the crown of Torah is greater than those 3. That's how some of them learn it, because Torah, as you said, is open for everyone, and to acquire it, by the way, your point of how to acquire it is a very interesting thing, because it does use the language of nickness, but the way a lot of the Mefarshim understand it, that it's not that that's what makes you into a king, but rather that's what you get when you're a king, as opposed to the Torah, you need these things as a means to get it. I mean, there's 24 gifts that we have to give to the kahuna, certain karbanas, certain things. There's 30 things that a king doesn't have to be involved with. But I hear your point. Your point is, meaning they also have to do something to work on it. So it's an interesting point which you made. Yeah, I think it's a Stam Mishnah. Or it could be Rabbi Shua ben Levi just continuing, but it doesn't really, I think it's broken up.
No, it has a smell of the time of the end, like against the Tzdokim. The Tzdokim, it has like this kind of, nitiyah to like go against. A lot of the Mishnah are like that. That at that time where people were very, very, they did not like the kahuna at all, and they did not like the malchus because of how it was. How it was. So it seems like it's also coming from that a little bit.
I hear you. I hear. So let's just knock down. We'll do 5. Is everyone okay with 5 more? We'll just do these 5 more and then we'll call it a night. So let's do it. Believe Tov. With a generosity, or a good heart. So what does that mean? So the Tiferes Yisrael says it's a soft nature. And what that is someone who has the ability to act joyfully for the benefit of others, meaning to be in a good mood, to smile, to be happy, where that's one way of understanding it. The Medrash Shmuel says that it's a cleansing of oneself. Having a good heart means that you have a clean heart, that you've removed a lot of that negative energy, or those negative thoughts and those negative emotions within oneself. The Alvis Reb Nosson says something along the lines of that someone who could celebrate another's success and be happy. And I think that is a very important idea. And Reb Shamshin Raphael Hirsch goes on to explain this idea that someone who is free of jealousy or hate and envy, he's able to focus on what he needs to do. And he's not as bothered, he's not in a competition, and he can celebrate with others. And therefore, it helps one get closer to the truth and pursue the truth. When one has a good heart, because he's not in a competition, it's not a war, he's not trying to outsmart the other guy, he's not jealous, he's able to celebrate. And that helps one be able to move forward in his Torah learning. I think they're all important. Damunas Chachamim, and this is a foundation, obviously, with faith or trust in the Chachamim, meaning it's the foundation of our Masorah, it's the foundation of our tradition, meaning if you don't trust the words of Mishnah, Gemara, meaning so then that's what we got. And and they're the ones that pass it down from generation to generation, and there needs to be a trust and an emunah in the sages. I think also on a deeper level, meaning one has to have trust in general meaning, for example, if you have a posik or if you have someone in your life that you ask, let's say, halachic shaylas to, you have to trust him, that he knows what he's talking about. There has to be a certain level of trust, especially if you don't know everything. You have to trust other people, and you have to trust people that know more than you. And of course, the Sfarim, there has to be an openness and a trust in what they're saying has validity and is true. On another level, the Gemara in Shabbos says that I have it in front of me, Amr Abzer Amr Rabba Bar Zimuna, Em Rishonim B'nei Malachim Anu B'nei Anoshim. then Rishonim b'nei Anoshim onu kechamorim. If earlier generations were like angels, then we are like humans. And if they were like humans, then we are like donkeys. That there has to be an appreciation, which is a very hard thing in our generation, and we see that in the millennials. I'm a millennial, but but the millennials and this generation where there's a complete that we know better than our elders. We know more. It's a certain gaiva. There's a certain ego to throw away what people have been doing for thousands of years because I know better. And there's a certain, of course, meaning we have to use our seichel and to move forward, but there has to be a certain trust that in our Masorah and to trust elders and meaning that and appreciate who they are. Meaning one level, so I've just said two ideas. One is the Masorah. Of course, you have to, if you want to learn Torah, you have to trust that what they're saying is true. That's first. And a Rebbe or a Posek, you have to trust, if you don't know everything, you have to be open to trusting other people. But also, there's an emunah of the Chachamim that they were great people. They were very, very special people. And they really worked on themselves. They weren't just stam people. And there has to be an appreciation for who they were, which they were great individuals. There's an emunah. I wasn't there to see them necessarily, but the way, like I was just doing the Gemara in Titus where it talks about Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, where it goes to a lot of the Tanoim. It's amazing. They were Melumid ben Nisim. They were miracles were flying. The emunah they had, the way they lived, they were extraordinary people. And there was something unique about who they were. And that's something which is a foundation for learning Torah. To appreciate our elders, our rabbis, all the way back to Chazal, who they were. And to really appreciate and to have emunah in their words.
Sahih.
Yeah.
Maybe what Rava said, Rava Bar
Reb Zera.
quoting the guy
Reb Zera in the name of Rava Bar
Reb Zera.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he was saying that the fact that like they weren't actually malachim, then I'm not really a donkey.
Now
like
what?
Then maybe he was saying exactly the opposite. Like the fact that like the people that he was saying like אם הם היו כמלאכים אז אבותינו כאנשים אם אנחנו כאנשים אז אנחנו כחמורים.
I'll read it.
Maybe he's like saying that in a way that exactly the opposite. Maybe he's saying that they weren't malachim. They're regular people just like all of us, and because they're not malachim, then the whole ishtalshelut doesn't come to me, and I'm not a chamor. I'm a person just like him, and just like I deserve respect, he deserves respect. And there's a quality to be able to look at him and say that he's bringing down something that I didn't understand, but to put him in a place that he's a malach is maybe exaggerating.
I think the main idea of what he's saying is that they were on another level. Meaning, if they were angels, meaning it's like if they were that great, then we're like the next grade lower. I mean, I think that's the main idea. Meaning, angel, not angel, what they were, who they were, but the idea is that they were great people. They weren't just like, they were people who were, they were shlemim. They're like that. We just had Lag BaOmer where it says Adam Nemar Bavuracha, where a person, meaning an Adam, is about Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. Who he was an Adam. He was a human being.
But they weren't shlemim. They weren't, and I think what's so amazing about the Gemara is that it emphasizes that. It emphasizes their faults all the time. So that's what's so great about everything about the thing.
That's totally general. That's the amazing. I mean,
they're not shlemim.
When I say shlemim, it doesn't mean that they never made a mistake in their life. It means that they were people who, meaning when we talk about Avram Avinu, he was something else. he was a person, yes. He had human needs like me and you. But, and yes, the Torah does record where he said, when he asked certain questions, and it does that so we can learn, obviously, but it has to be in perspective. Avram Avinu was an incredible, great, beyond person. He was. And there's a certain meaning, meaning the idea is, meaning this statement from Reb Zera is, if you think that, meaning they were people like me and you, but if you don't appreciate who they were and the greatness of who they were, the greatness of the human being, they were human beings who worked through challenges and they grew tremendously and they were very big people. If you don't appreciate that, then it's very easy to deny what they're saying. I know better. Fine, they said that, but okay, fine. It's nice that they said that. You don't take their words with the proper respect and the proper meaning of, Zaka, I love you and I respect everything you say, but I might feel that I might have an opinion, but certain things, when we go back to when we're talking about of the Mishnayos and we're talking about in the Gemara, who they were, these people were very special people who, and there needs to be that emunah, there needs to be that appreciation for the greatness of who they were. They weren't people that were saying these things because it was an ego trip. They were just trying to they wanted covered, so they get my name in the Gemara, you know what I mean?
But we know even today that there's so many rebbeim. There are. I mean, you can't say specifically, obviously, but there are people out there who are, in a certain sense, maybe we're deaf to vote, and maybe this, and maybe that.
I agree with you. I think.
Why couldn't it be something that was? Why? Because we could say this about our generation, but the generation before, it's you can't say that because you can't say it at all.
No,
the generation before there, everybody was perfect. The generation before that, everybody was perfect. Our generation.
I hear your point. But I think that if you want to learn Gemara and if you want to attach yourself to the Masorah, you have to, meaning there has to be an emunah of what they're saying is MS, or at least that what they're trying to convey is MS, and they weren't there for ulterior motives, because then the whole thing's out the window. It doesn't get started. Fine, you want to talk about nowadays? Now, fine, you can put that aside. But at least in those times, at least our Masorah all the way down, and I think even in nowadays, meaning when we talk about Rav Moshe Feinstein, for example, that's just where all the Rabbanim in America respected him as being the one. It wasn't just, meaning there is a certain appreciation for who he was and what he knew, even though I might not be the biggest Talmid Chacham and I might not be the biggest one, but there's a certain, you could call it's a certain trust that when he says a psak, he's not coming to say a psak because he's just trying to play games. He's trying to say that because he believes that's true, and I'm relying on him. Meaning, obviously, unfortunately, there are people that give bad names, and there are people who are out for their covet, and there is that out in this world, and there's no question about that. But I'm talking about the people who are. I'm not talking about me and you and just regular teachers. I'm talking about the people that are really carrying the Masorah forward and really bring it down. Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach was the person that is dealing with electricity and dealing with all of these new shilos that are coming up. And if you think that he was, you could read what he said and you could really put in the effort and to really go through it if you have the time to see if it makes sense to you. But if you don't, then there's a certain emunah that I don't think when he came to write his psak on electricity, he was coming because he was just, I think he was 100% l'shem shamayim. And there has to be that trust. I'm not talking about you're every average Joe Schmo who just gets up there and gives a shir. You're Psach Yefarman. Yes, no, I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about people that that are like bringing it down, like the Shulchan Aruch. You could argue, meaning there are those that argue with the Shulchan Aruch. I'm not denying the fact that the question of when you're able to argue and when you're not able to argue, that's a separate conversation. But to appreciate who the Shulchan Aruch was, who Rabbi Yosef Karo was, he was someone that was completely l'shem shamayim, someone who was he wasn't trying to play games, or he wasn't writing the Shulchan Aruch because he wanted covered. He was really trying to help, or this is my emunah, meaning I don't know it, I didn't know him, I didn't meet him personally, but there's an emunah from generation to generation, the people that were around him and the respect that the Chachamim have for him and the Ramah, and there's certain Chachamim going through the Shach, the Taz, the Magen Avram, and the people on the side, and you see the people who we respect, there's a certain, someone could come around and deny the whole thing. Yeah, I don't know, they're just like me and you, and they were just like, just like I have ulterior motives, and just like they were also, and forget that. But if one does that, so then that's, they are our links to the Masorah. And if one does that, it sort of throws away the whole thing. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I have this feeling that it could be a little more complex than that. But absolutely, I definitely do get, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily getting into the.
Thank you, Stefan.
Yeah, Yashikar. Like, I'm not necessarily getting into the idea, are they perfect? They never make a mistake. And of course, we see there are times that they made it, like, fine. But I'm just saying, meaning who they were and their motives in general were not they wanted to convey Torah. They wanted to bring down the Torah to the next generation. And they did the best they could. And by the way, there are those that say that, like Rabban Kotler has a whole thing saying that like Avram Avinu was like Mamash on another level, and fine, there's back and forth and how to understand that. But whatever it is, they were very special people, and one has to understand that they, l'chaim, right. Anyone want any ideas?
I just wanted to say, I think it, from what I understand, whether they were perfect or not perfect in their judgments or whatnot, us following as being ma'aminim b'nei ma'aminim, that we're somewhat like excused if there was something that was passed down that was incorrect or whatnot. That's from what I understand, is like the important thing is to follow it, and it's like in some ways they even change what was right or wrong, and it's just our job is not to get into too deep into, oh, I want to make up my own path because I think that was wrong. But it's just like, okay, it is now right. But that also is kind of controversial, but it lifts the burden off of us from having to write all of history or correct it.
Right. Meaning there is the idea, like the Chazon Ish came out with a famous thing, if I remember correctly, that meaning the Masorah of Klal Yisrael will naturally spit out the things which are not true, or the things which, there's a certain siyata d'shmaya, there's a certain hashkacha, there's a certain level of Hashem being involved in the process of how the Masorah goes down. And one has to have that emunah, meaning if we're in Golos right now and this is what we got, there's a certain level of emunah that Hashem is not just going to let us go and, this is part of what we're supposed to be doing. Could be yes, could be no, but meaning like the Gemara says, like, if we're not prophets, we're sons of prophets. There's a certain level of the Jewish nation for sure as a whole has a certain chush, has a certain sense for people that are sheker and people that are not, meaning where people are coming from, and especially where the nation takes on people as being leaders. Of course, there's arguments throughout the generations, all the way back from Mishnayos and Hillel and Shammai, but meaning going through the Masorah from generation to generation, there's a certain siyata d'shmaya, and we have a certain chush for the ones who are off, and they usually get chucked to the side, and for the ones who are really trying to bring it down.
Baruch Hashem.
Okay, should we continue?
Yeah.
Oh,
Sach,
yeah.
the Gemara says the Torah is lo b'shamayim he. The Torah is not in the heavens. And Hashem gave us an instruction book on how to deal with these issues. And when a psak becomes generally accepted among the of that generation, it becomes Torah. It becomes what it is. I mean, we're not. The Gemara talks about when the Bas Kol comes out of Shemayim, we don't listen to that because Hashem gave us an instruction book on how to determine what the halacha is. And we, through the process, as you were saying, through the process of generally accepting through Das Torah teaching us, I mean, this is how it's become accepted. And that through that whole process, those that are not MS, it's going to be filtered out. Because the Das Torah of that generation will filter it out. But this is what our job is to go through it and to work at it and to do it. Because Hashem gave us this instruction book.
Shakach. Okay, let's just try to do these last ones quickly. I know we're a little over time, or you know what, maybe we'll stop here and we'll pick up because I don't know if we're gonna, this Thursday, maybe we'll do something on the parsha, but next Monday, we'll continue with the 48 ways. And Yasher Koach Mamish, everyone. Thank you so much for coming in, and thank you everyone for sharing and putting in your ideas, and Mamish, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Yasher Koach.
Beautiful.
Shkoyach.
Shkoyach Zakai, thanks for your input. Rabbi Yoel, wow, you had some beautiful things. And Reb Shmuel, of course, popping in there. Mayor, Abba, and yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And Gary, I forgot. Whoa, Gary, how can I forget about Gary?
Thank you.
Good to see you, Reb Nachman Futterman.
The best.
Good to see you, Psachia. Reb Psachia.
Reb
See
Psachia,
everyone.
good group. Good
Baruch
group.
Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Thank you so much, everyone. Having a wonderful night, everyone. Thank you so much
Be
for
well.
tuning in and learning.